Have you ever walked into a room and it just sounded wrong?
Oh, definitely.
Think about it, like maybe a super busy restaurant
Hmm.
where you're practically shouting just to talk to the person across the table.
Yeah, all that clatter and background noise, it's impossible.
Or, the complete opposite. Maybe a concert hall where the music just wraps around you perfectly.
Yeah, where every note is clear and rich, total immersion.
Exactly. There's such a huge difference, isn't there? And it's not just luck. There's like a real science to it, an art even.
Absolutely. A very complex one.
So today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that. Room acoustics and acoustical defects. We're using some great material here, specifically Module 2 Room Acoustics and Acoustical Defects.pdf, which was put together by R.J. Jabinet.
It's a really solid resource.
Our mission basically is to unpack how sound actually behaves in enclosed spaces, why it matters so much for, our everyday experiences, and crucially, what happens when things go wrong acoustically.
Those defects, yeah. The gremlins in the sound system, so to speak.
Right. So if you've ever wondered why some rooms feel so loud, or why your voice does that weird echo thing in a stairwell, or why some sounds just seem to bounce around forever, well, you're about to get some answers.
They're pretty fascinating ones, I think.
And we're going to pull back the curtain on how sound waves and spaces interact, make it all make sense. Okay, let's get into it. So before we jump into what can go wrong, the defects, maybe we should start with the why. What's the fundamental goal of room acoustical design? What are designers actually trying to do?
That's the perfect place to start because it's often misunderstood. The core purpose, really, is to control how sound moves around.
Control it, like stop it.
Not necessarily stop it, more like manage it. Control its propagation, how it travels, its reflection, how it bounces, and its attenuation, how it fades. It's about shaping the entire sound environment.
Shaping it. Okay.
Think of it like sculpting. You're guiding the sound energy so it actually helps whatever the room is for, making sure the sound works for the activity, whether that's speech or music or just concentration.
Okay, shaping the sound. And our source mentions specific components of sound we need to think about. It's not just one big sound blob, right?
Exactly. That's key. For an acoustician, sound isn't monolithic. We break it down. First, there's the direct sound.
Direct sound.
Yeah, that's the sound that travels straight from the source, someone talking, an instrument playing straight to your ear. No bounces. It's the first arrival, the primary info.
Got it. The clean signal.
Pretty much. But then, almost instantly, you get reverberant sound.
Ah, the reflection.
Precisely. All those sound waves bouncing off the walls, ceiling, floor, furniture, everything, before they reach you. And here's the tricky part. These reflections can be good or bad.
Useful and harmful, the source says. How so?
Okay, so think of a concert hall again. Some early reflections, especially from the sides, can make the music feel wider, more enveloping. That's useful, right? It adds richness.
Yeah, makes it sound spacious.
But in that noisy restaurant, or maybe a big classroom with hard surfaces, too many strong reflections arriving too late just blur everything together. Syllables overlap, speech becomes hard to understand. That's definitely harmful, makes listening exhausting.
Okay, so direct sound, reverberant sound. What else is in the toolkit?
Well, there's sound attenuation. That's just the natural decrease in sound energy as it travels or hits things. Sound gets weaker over distance and time.
Fades away.
Right. Then there's absorption. That's a specific type of attenuation.
Yeah.
Sound hits a soft, porous surface like carpet or acoustic foam, and the energy gets soaked up, basically converted into tiny amounts of heat instead of bouncing back.
Like a sound sponge.
Kinda, yeah. And finally, there's diffusion. That's when sound hits an irregular or textured surface and scatters in lots of different directions.
Instead of one clean bounce.
Exactly. Instead of a mirror-like reflection, you get this spread out, softer reflection. Helps make the sound feel more even, less harsh. So direct sound, reverberation, attenuation, absorption, diffusion.
Yeah.
Those are the main tools we use to sculpt the sound.
Gotcha. So with all those tools, how do designers decide what to sculpt? It sounds like the perfect sound is different for every room.
It absolutely is. There's no one-size-fits-all. The very first thing you have to ask is, what is this space for? The intended use completely dictates the design goals.
And the source gives examples for speech versus music.
Yeah, and the contrast is really interesting. Let's take speech. Even within that category, the goals can be opposites.
How so?
Okay, think about an auditorium or a lecture hall. What's the number one goal?
Oh, that everyone can hear clearly.
Exactly. Good speech distinction. Every single word needs to be clear, intelligible, easy to understand no matter where you're sitting. Effortless listening. The message has to get through.
Makes sense.
Now, contrast that with, say, a modern open-plan office. Lots of people working, talking. What's the goal there?
Probably not hearing everyone else's conversations.
Bingo. Good speech privacy. You want to hear the person you're talking to or your own phone call clearly, but you don't want your conversation broadcast to the whole floor, and you don't want to be constantly distracted by everyone else's chatter.
So, clarity in one space, privacy in another, using the same sound speech.
Isn't that fascinating? Totally different objectives based on context.
Okay, what about music spaces then?
Different game again. For music, you generally want appropriate reverberation, and you want to create a strong sense of space, that feeling of envelopment we talked about.
So some lingering sound is good for music?
Often, yes.
Okay.
Especially for things like classical music, orchestral stuff. That bit of reverberation blends the sounds, adds warmth, richness. Too dry and it sounds sterile. Too much and it turns into mud.
A balancing act.
Definitely. And another critical thing for music is stage acoustics. The performers need to be able to hear themselves and each other clearly.
Oh, right. So they can play together properly.
Essential for any ensemble, yeah. And the stage design also needs to help project their sound out into the audience effectively, beautifully. You need both good listening on stage and good projection from the stage.
That really drives home the point that it's not just about making things quiet. Our source explicitly says, room acoustical design does not equal maximizing absorption.
That is such a critical point. And probably the biggest myth out there. People think good acoustics just means slapping absorption panels everywhere.
Making it dead quiet.
Right. But take that lecture hall again. If you covered everything in absorptive material, the speaker's voice would have no life, no presence. It would sound flat, unnatural. People would strain to hear. The speaker would strain their voice. It would be awful, actually fatiguing.
Because you need some reflections to carry the sound.
You need some reflections, yes, controlled ones. You need that blend, enough absorption to kill annoying echoes and excessive reverb, but enough reflection to give the sound energy, presence, and naturalness, and to help it distribute evenly.
So it really is about finding that sweet spot, the right mix of surfaces strategically placed for whatever that room needs to do. It's complex.
It's a delicate dance, yeah, between capturing sound and letting it breathe, and realizing a super dead room can be just as bad as a super live one, just in different ways.
Okay, we've talked a lot about reflections being key, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Let's get into the physics a bit. How does sound actually reflect? Is it really just like light hitting a mirror?
At a basic level, yeah, that's a good starting point. Sound follows the principle of specular reflection. Angle of incidence equals angle of reflection.
Like playing pool. The angle the ball hits the cushion is the angle it bounces off.
Exactly like that. If the conditions are right, a sound wave hitting a flat, hard surface behaves very predictably, just like that light beam or billiard ball.
If the conditions are right, okay, what are those conditions? Because rooms aren't usually perfect mirrors.
Right. There are two main conditions for that simple specular reflection to really dominate, and they're super important. First, the sound's wavelength has to be smaller than the surface it's hitting.
Wavelength smaller than the surface. Why does that matter?
Okay, think about low sounds versus high sounds. Bass notes have really long wavelengths, right? Treble notes have short ones.
Yeah.
If a wavelength is really big compared to an object, the sound tends to bend around it. That's diffraction rather than reflecting cleanly off it.
Yeah.
Like waterways going around a thin pole.
Ah, okay. So a small decorative pillar might reflect high frequencies, but low bass frequencies might just ignore it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Or bend around it. So the same surface can act very differently depending on the frequency of the sound hitting it. That's huge for design.
Makes sense. What's the second condition?
The surface itself needs to be even smooth, not textured or irregular and hard, meaning not sound absorbing.
Okay, so smooth concrete versus, say, a thick curtain.
Perfect example. The smooth concrete, clean specular reflection, the curtain. It'll absorb a lot of the sound energy, and whatever is reflected might be scattered because the surface isn't perfectly flat. So material matters, texture matters, size relative to wavelengths matters.
Got it. And the source also points out that the overall room shape, the geometry, plays a big role too.
Oh, absolutely fundamental. The basic geometry of the room, square, rectangle, circle, weird shapes, dictates the primary reflection paths, how sound bounces around overall.
And also the shape of individual surfaces within the room, like curved walls.
Yes, flat walls give simple reflections, but curved surfaces, concave curves especially, they can focus sound like a lens. Convex curves can scatter it. Angled panels can redirect it intentionally. All these geometric factors interact.
And this is where things can start to go really wrong, isn't it? When these reflections aren't managed properly, they create problems.
Exactly. This brings us right into the territory of acoustical defects. When the physics of reflection aren't working for the room's purpose, they work against it. And that's where it gets really interesting and often really problematic for listeners.
All right, let's dive into those defects. The source lists 6 specific ones that can really mess up a room's sound. Understanding these seems key to appreciating good acoustics or diagnosing bad ones.
Totally. These are the common culprits that acousticians are always fighting against. They can make a space uncomfortable, unclear, or just plain unusable for its intended purpose.
Okay, first up, echoes. We kind of know this one, but what's the specific definition in room acoustics?
Right, we all think of shouting in a canyon. But in a room, an echo is technically when a reflected sound reaches your ear noticeably later than the direct sound. There's a distinct time gap.
How much later?
Generally, if a strong reflection arrives more than about 50 milliseconds, that's 1/20th of a second after the direct sound, our brain hears it as a separate event, a distinct repetition. Hello!
And what causes that delay?
Usually, a large distance to a reflective surface, like the back wall of a big auditorium or a high ceiling. The sound has to travel there and back, and that takes time. If the surface is hard and reflects strongly, boom, echo.
And it makes things sound muddled.
Definitely. Especially for speech. Imagine trying to understand someone when every syllable is repeated a fraction of a second later. It gets very confusing very quickly. Music gets messy too.
Okay, distinct delayed repetitions. Got it. Next, reverberation. Often confused with echo, you said.
Yeah, people use the terms interchangeably, but they're different. Reverberation isn't about distinct repeats. It's the overall persistence of sound in a space after the original sound source stops.
Like the sound lingering, fading away slowly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think of clapping your hands in a large church. You don't hear clap, clap, clap. You hear clap, clap, clap. That tail of sound, that blend of thousands of reflections decaying over time, that's reverberation.
And the source mentions prolonged reverberation as the defect.
Right. This is when the sound lingers for too long. It happens in rooms with lots of hard reflective surfaces, or just really large rooms. The sound energy keeps bouncing around for ages before it dies out.
And the effect is?
Blurring. Everything mushes together. Speech becomes unintelligible because the end of one word overlaps with the beginning of the next. Music loses all its detail and clarity, becomes a wash of sound. Think of an empty gymnasium, awful acoustics, usually due to prolonged reverberation.
But wait, the source also says some reverberation is essential.
Crucial point, yes. Unlike echoes, which are almost always bad in rooms, some reverb is good. It adds warmth, richness, a sense of spaciousness, especially to music. It makes sound feel natural, alive. A room with zero reverberation feels dead, sterile, uncomfortable.
So it's about the amount of reverberation.
Precisely. It's measured by reverberation time, RT, how long it takes for the sound level to decay by 60 decibels after the source stops. And controlling that RT is a primary goal of acoustic design.
What controls the RT?
3 main things. 1, the volume of the room. Bigger rooms generally mean longer RTs, just more space for sound to travel.
Okay.
2, the sound absorption of the surfaces. Lots of soft absorptive stuff, carpets, curtains, acoustic panels. People means shorter RTs. Lots of hard stuff. Concrete, glass, plaster means longer RTs.
And 3.
The contents of the room, specifically people and furniture. People are surprisingly absorptive. A full concert hall has a much shorter RT than an empty one. Same with a furnished room versus an empty one.
Right, and that chart in the source for recommended RTs is really helpful. It puts numbers on it.
It's super useful. It gives you actual targets. Like 0.5 to 1.5 seconds is rated excellent.
What kind of spaces are those?
Think well-designed lecture halls, small theaters, recording studios, places where clarity is absolutely paramount.
Okay, then 1.5 to 2.0 seconds is good.
Yeah, still very good.
Yeah.
And maybe larger multi-purpose rooms, places that need a bit more liveness, but still good clarity.
2.0 to 3.0 seconds is fairly good. Starting to get a bit long.
You might notice a bit of blurring there, yeah. Maybe some larger halls or less optimized spaces. Still functional, but not ideal for speech.
Then it drops off. 3.0 to 5.0 seconds is bad.
Now you're in trouble. Speech intelligibility really suffers. Music gets muddy. Think empty gyms, big untreated halls. Communication gets difficult.
And above 5.0 seconds is very bad.
Yeah, pretty much unusable for clear communication or detailed music. Just an overwhelming wash of sound, like a massive tiled swimming pool complex or something. Very echoey, very live.
Wow, that range really clarifies things.
It really does, and it makes you think, doesn't it? When you walk into a space now, you can almost try to guess its RT just by listening to how sound behaves, how clear speech is.
Yeah, start listening to the room itself. Okay, next defect. Flutter echoes. Sounds fluttery.
It does. It's a very specific and often very annoying type of echo. It's a rapid, repetitive succession of echoes.
Like a machine gun.
Sometimes described that way, yeah. Or high-frequency ringing or buzzing. It's caused by sound bouncing back and forth rapidly between two parallel, hard, reflective surfaces.
Ah, parallel walls. Like in a corridor.
Exactly. Or a hard floor and a hard ceiling directly opposite each other. If you clap your hands sharply in a space like that, you might hear this zzzt or flutter sound immediately after.
Because the sound is just ping-ponging back and forth super fast.
Precisely. Hundreds of times a second, maybe. Too fast to hear as distinct echoes, so it merges into that buzzing or fluttering sound. Really distracting, makes spaces feel harsh.
How do designers stop that?
Simple ways are to avoid large parallel surfaces in the first place. Angle walls slightly. Or treat one or both surfaces with absorption or diffusion to break up that clean back-and-forth reflection.
Okay, makes sense. Moving on to focus sound. This sounds like the opposite of even sound distribution.
It is. Undue focus sound is caused by concave surfaces, curved inward.
Like a dome ceiling or a curved back wall.
Exactly. These shapes act like acoustic lenses or mirrors. They gather the sound waves reflecting off them and concentrate or focus them onto specific points in the room.
Creating sound hotspots.
You got it. You get these areas where the sound level is unnaturally high, maybe even distortedly loud. These are the focus sound spots or sound foci.
And presumably, if sound is focused there, it's weaker elsewhere.
That's the flip side. You get the hot spots, but you also get corresponding dead spots, where sound energy is lacking because it's been directed away. So the listening experience becomes incredibly uneven depending on where you are.
Terrible for an audience.
Absolutely destroys uniform listening. And the source mentions the MIT chapel as an example.
Right, the circular one with the curved brick interior.
Yeah, visually stunning design by Serenen. But those curves, especially the rippled brick, inherently risk creating focusing effects. It shows how architectural form, if not carefully considered acoustically, can inadvertently create these kinds of problems. Beauty and function need to align.
Okay, next defect. Resonance. This sounds like it's about specific frequencies being a problem.
Exactly right. Audible resonance is when the room itself emphasizes or amplifies certain frequencies.
How does a room do that?
Every enclosed space has natural resonant frequencies, often called room modes, based purely on its dimensions, length, width, height. It's like how a guitar string vibrates most strongly in specific pitches. A room vibrates acoustically at certain frequencies.
So certain notes just sound louder in that room.
Yes, or they hang around longer.
Yeah.
You might get an excessive boominess in the bass at one spot, or a particular mid-range frequency might just jump out unnaturally. And often, if one frequency is boosted, others might be canceled out or suppressed in certain locations too.
And the effect.
It throws the tonal balance completely off. Especially bad for music. You lose the natural blend of instruments or voices. Everything sounds uneven, maybe boomy, maybe thin, maybe harsh in one particular range. It's like the room itself is acting as a really bad EQ.
Not what you want in a concert hall.
Definitely not. Designers use calculations and sometimes specific treatments, like tuned absorbers, to try and tame these dominant room modes and achieve a smoother, more balanced frequency response.
Okay, final defect on the list. External noise. Seems obvious noise from outside getting in. How is it a room defect, though?
Because a well-designed room includes control over noise intrusion as part of its acoustic integrity. It's considered a defect of the room's design if external noise significantly interferes with its intended function.
So it's about the building shell, the insulation.
Yes. Noise from traffic, planes, machinery, whatever, can get in through obvious paths like open windows or poorly sealed doors, but it can also transmit directly through walls, floors, roofs, even the structure itself if they don't have proper sound insulation.
Even through a solid wall.
Oh yeah. Low-frequency noise, like truck rumble or HVAC hum, can travel through solid materials quite effectively if the construction isn't designed to block it. So it's not just about the inside acoustics, it's about isolating the room from the outside sonic environment too.
So controlling external noise involves?
Two main things. First, smart planning. Locating sensitive spaces away from noise sources if possible, orienting the building strategically. Second, and crucially, proper sound insulation of the building envelope using heavy materials, creating air gaps, using resilient channels, specifying high-performance windows and doors, building a robust barrier against the outside world.
So it's a truly holistic view of the sound environment, inside and out.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
can have perfect internal acoustics, but if traffic noise is constantly leaking in, the room fails its purpose.
Yeah.
So yeah, understanding all these defects, it really changes how you perceive spaces, doesn't it?
It really does. We've covered a lot from the basics of sound control, like managing reflections and absorption, to these 6 specific troublemakers: echoes, reverberation issues, flutter echoes, focus sound, resonance, and external noise.
Yeah. And learning that good design isn't just about quietness, but about balance. And that reverb time is this key measurable thing. It gives you a new vocabulary, a new way to understand why spaces sound the way they do.
Definitely. You start hearing echoes not just as echoes, but as delayed reflections. You hear muddiness as possibly prolonged reverb. That buzzing might be flutter echo.
Exactly. You can start diagnosing the soundscape, the examples, the RT chart. They give you tools to interpret what you're hearing.
So here's something to think about as you go about your day. Now that you know about these phenomena, these defects,
Yeah.
think about the spaces you use. Your office, maybe. That cafe you like. Your living room. How many of them could actually be improved with some acoustic thought? Maybe adding a rug, some curtains, a bookcase, things to break up reflections or absorb sound.
Simple fixes can sometimes make a huge difference.
And maybe more profoundly, how does just knowing this stuff change how you listen? Do you find yourself paying more attention to the sound of the room now, not just the sounds in it? Are you starting to hear the physics behind the feeling?
Yeah, it's like gaining a new sense almost.
Yeah.
Tuning into the invisible architecture of sound.
Something to listen for.